everyone. You are tuned in to the Purpose, Passion, and Power Show with Jessica Lynn on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. We are Kansas City's global community radio show, and we are excited to be here with you today on this first Sunday of the month of October. Hello, October. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month as well as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we are so excited. I'm super excited that I have my sister from another mother. I have my fellow domestic violence advocate. I have the Powerhouse, Carolyn Hammond, founder of Safe in Harm's Way, domestic violence survivor, health survivor she came back from death literally. Her story is just powerful and inspiring, and I'm so happy that she's here with us today at the table of purpose. And so we are here and we are going to talk about domestic violence and breaking the silence of domestic violence. And we're going to get into that. And listen, if you see us, please share this video. It may not be for you, but it could possibly be for someone else. And some of the things that we share may inspire and help to save someone's life. And so I want to give a shout out to all of the domestic violence survivors right now and the breast cancer survivors. And not just breast cancer, but any type of cancer. I honor you, I salute you, and I encourage you to continue to fight. And may God continue to bless your journey. I want to share some community announcements before we get into talking to my sister here. You can say hi.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to say, first of all, thank you for having me today. Any time I get to spend with you is always spent well. So thank you very much. And after you make your announcement, I don't want to spring it to you, but I'd love it if you could lead us in a short little setting intention, because whenever I'm having a bad day, Jessica magically calls me out of nowhere, and she has the most beautiful prayer vibrations, just lifts up the spirit. So is it okay if we just start our hour together? I know you have an announcement, but after you
we can start our hour with a prayer.
That sounds great.
And I just want to say, God, we just thank you for today. We thank you for your presence, and we thank you for just waking us up this morning, because someone did not wake up. And so I just thank you for this moment in time. I thank you for the opportunity to be before your people and to share a word of encouragement and a word of inspiration, knowledge and information on purpose. And I just thank you. I just thank you because you're so wonderful. I thank you for Carolyn and I and our relationship. I thank you that it is edifying to the kingdom. And I just ask that you encourage and that you strengthen and give everyone that hears me and everyone that will hear me and Carolyn and I, give them what they need. Give them what they need. There's so much going on in the world right now. And what we need most is peace. And we need serenity. And we need to not worry about tomorrow, because it has enough problems of its own. So we just trust you today. We trust you with our lives. We trust you with everything. All of the social injustice, all of the everything that's going on in politics and the COVID and everything. We just trust you and we believe you and we praise you, for you are the true healer and the true peacemaker. We give it to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for asking me to do that, because that was actually on my mind. So the Spirit is moving already.
Good.
And so I want to give a quick announcement regarding the Kansas City Black Mastermind Group. The Kansas City and Atlanta affiliate groups want to invite you to a business education seminar on October 18th from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the keynote speaker is Justin Brooks of Kansas City. He's originally from Kansas City, I should say, the CEO of J.H. Brooks, Inc. Let's talk about why Black businesses matter. Register today at their Facebook page. You can go to the Kansas City Black Mastermind Group to register for this quarterly seminar session hosted by the Kansas City and the Atlanta Black Mastermind Group. So shout out to them and all of the things that they're doing. Listen, if you have a community announcement, please share it with us. You can share it with us on the feed of this live post, and we'll get it in before the end of the show. We also have a few announcements from Giving Hope and Help and Safe in Harm's Way, and I will share that Safe in Harm's Way. We'll share some announcements, but I'll share some about Giving Hope and Help now. We are gearing up for Giving Tuesday, which is December 1st. It's always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. You have Thanksgiving where your bellies get full and you're merry with your friends and family. Then you have Black Friday, and then you have Cyber Monday, and you have Giving Tuesday. So you have all these days of receiving, and then on Tuesday you have the opportunity to give with the rest of the globe. So we're asking that you give to nonprofits, and that's what Giving Tuesday is all about. You can give financially, you can give with your time, but we are asking for financial donations of $5 or more from the community to help us continue our work that we're doing locally and across the globe. And then we're gearing up for our eighth annual Feminine Hygiene Product Drive for women and children, men as well, that have been affected by domestic violence. And so the domestic violence shelters will drive through and receive the period products and items of dignity needed for their shelters and places of refuge. The community will drive through and donate and fill the truck with period products and items of dignity. And so save those dates for Giving Hope and Help. We appreciate your support. What do you have? Safe in Harm's Way.
You know, we are spending the back half of the year working on building out and finishing our website because we're creating a safe space for survivors to be able to share their story without edit and without shame.
Wow.
So we're working that into the equation. We did not have that before in our previous provider. So now we've really taken a huge pivot, and Digital Lagoon has helped us with that. They're a fabulous organization and company here in Kansas City. Great people to work with. Digital Lagoon.
Okay.
So they're working with us on that, and we've made a commitment for the back half of the year to focus on one life. One life, because it gets overwhelming. I mean, do you get tired sometimes? And I know. I feel like we should hold hands as we're going to have this conversation.
Yes.
We'll virtually hold hands.
Do I get tired?
It's overwhelming.
A lot.
The amount of work that needs to be done. And you know, I'm very, very fortunate in that I love my job. The job that pays me, I am surrounded by smart people. We change and positively impact the lives of people undergoing chemotherapy and people undergoing trauma. And I am so blessed to work for the organization I do. But I do the Safe in Harm's Way work on top of that.
Wow, and that's a lot.
It's a lot.
You have a corporate job, plus she does the nonprofit, helping people literally all over the world.
So to
escape violence. This is just amazing.
But I get tired and overwhelmed and sad sometimes when you hear stories and the amount of situations that negatively impact people for lifetimes. And I always come back to gratitude. That I think is the biggest opportunity to heal. It's a healing move moment, finding gratitude, the oh my goodness of life, right? And but that sometimes seems so big. So I attended this class. I started this Dreamers course, and it's people from around the world, and it's so cool. I get to talk with people, you know, from Holland, from New Zealand. We then had our own subgroup that we now meet every Wednesday, and all we do is meet for an hour and talk about our dreams. What are our dreams? And this was a great group of over 6,000 people, and we all just came together to talk about what our dreams were. And we had a big conference. And it was called the Dreamers Conference. And one of the speakers said, do not approach your life and your changing work as if you have to solve every problem.
I knew you were going there.
Work to do one life, affect one life. And in so doing, you don't know the number of lives you're going to affect. But if you do that, and my good friend Judy, who I've known since I was 14 years old, and Judy always says, Carolyn, you are trying to drink the ocean, and all you need is a little sip of water. So smart women coming at you saying, you need to figure this out. that's what we're focusing on, is to volunteer and play into places with the focus of, if I can reach one person with the message, and that person goes on to reach somebody else, and there, before you know it, we have this ever-expanding web of goodness, and we've created an effort to positively impact the world.
You can impact the world one life at a time,
and that's what we're doing. Otherwise I don't sleep. So it's just and I have great people who help me all around. It's not just me. I think everybody's feeling. I know there was a moment last week when I must have gotten, over the course of the day, text messages from 20 different people across the world.
Wow.
Saying, I feel off today. What's wrong with the energy?
I called you that
You
day.
did.
Oh my gosh.
You were one of them.
Oh my gosh.
You were one of them. We had this great hour-long conversation, and you did change my mindset. But I think everything that's coming at us, the vibrations of that are you can feel it. So
there's just so many things that we're dealing with. It's darts coming from every area of our lives.
Exactly.
It's just. And if you want to have a peaceful day, just literally leave the TV and social media off, or else your spirit is going to be 100% disturbed by something. So it's, wow.
Yeah.
That is so awesome, though. I love that, just talking about your dreams and then empowering each other to be about it.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. One of the things that I didn't mention, what we want people to do is we want you to share your story. And so this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as well as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we're asking that you send your story in to us at donate at givinghopeandhelp.com, and you may be featured on this show, sitting at the Purpose Table, as well as on our social media. We would love to hear from you. We've already been receiving stories from survivors of domestic violence and breast cancer. And I just want to say, breast cancer gets a lot of the type of breast cancer gets a lot of attention. However, there's so many other cancers that are not acknowledged. And we lost my niece October the 2nd, what was her fourth year transition anniversary. And we lost her to Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
Which is a blood cancer, as well as leukemia is a blood cancer. And so I want to say to those that are suffering or have been survived, other types of cancers, you're welcome to send your story in to us as well. We would love to hear from you and lift you up. So, yeah, I just thought of that when you were talking about, 6,000 people in dreams. I don't know why that came to my head, but yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons we made the pivot, is what you're saying is so important.
Yeah.
When you're undergoing something, I know for me, when I am battling a health issue, so I have to have eye surgery on Tuesday, which is a result from having lived with my abuser. So, I can be 4 years out and still have to deal with the health consequences of that. That is something that will send me into a very dark hole, and my daughter will kindly point out, but Mom, that's great content, because there are millions of other people dealing with the lifelong consequences of having lived with an abuser.
Can I just interject something right here? If you missed that, she said that she had eye surgery last week,
and then I have another one on Tuesday,
and she has another one this coming Tuesday, so day after tomorrow, and she's 4 years post leaving her abuser. And she's still dealing with the physical challenges of this domestic violent relationship. This is why it's so important, because I want to talk about that. If you're much as comfortable as you are,
sure.
In the correlation to the physical surgeries that you've had, and talk about how the mental surgeries that you have to have. So you're not only dealing with the mental, the physical, but you're dealing with the mental as well. And so I just want to say thank you for being here and sharing your story before you even get into it, because it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to sit in front of the world. We're on Facebook, so they can access this. Anyone can access this. And for you to start a nonprofit to empower other women to leave their abusers. And I am just literally blown away that you had a surgery last week and you're having another one this week from the violence that you have suffered. And I want to just say that I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I am very sorry. But I know that without that journey, you would not be the person that you are today.
Truth.
And you have saved many lives through your journey and sharing your story. So I just want to empower you and just say hats off.
Thank you. Thank you. And, that's the biggest thing when you share your story. Initially I go into very small mode. I call it getting very small.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time speaking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that when I first escaped from my abuser. I went underground mainly because out of fear. He was trying to find me. He was trying to show up in places where I was, saying things like, I'm just going to take you back to our house and, we'll die together. Those kinds of things that make you nervous. And I went small because I didn't want anybody else to be harmed. If he was going to harm me, I didn't want any of my friends or my children to be harmed as well.
Sure.
Getting small like that meant I was silent. It meant I wasn't sharing what was happening to me. I wasn't reaching out to people. I wasn't processing it myself. And once I decided to go ahead and be vulnerable and start talking about what happened to me, the world opened up. And it was, I remember a moment when I was because when you escape abuse, most times you have to have multiple doctor appointments afterwards. You have all these things you have to do physically that because you have escaped from this, your health is compromised. And I remember talking to a young nurse, and I was telling her what happened, and she started to cry. And she said, "This happened to you?"
Wow.
Now, I'm in a suit. I'm in, I was working at the time.
Here. She's a corporate woman.
So I was,
with a Fortune 500 company, and she's been there for many years, and she's like the top salesperson. It's just crazy. And she's going through all this abuse, and it's just like...
Yeah. So, and she said, "You?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Me too."
Oh my God.
And I thought,
me too. Wow.
Wow. This was back before Me Too.
Me too, yeah.
And it made me realize that by sharing my story, I could help somebody else. Because not only did I not feel so horribly alone anymore, the person I'm speaking with no longer feels horribly alone anymore. And when people, oh, for goodness sakes, I sometimes get a little pushback, although I am indeed surrounded by fabulous friends who lift and support me, and to which I do know that I would not have progressed in my healing as much as I had without them. I do get, and family, I do get some pushback. Well, this is your focal point. This is the lens on which you view the world. And rightly so, because I have to say, there are many, if I did a statistical analysis of my friends across the world, fabulous women that are accomplished, that do fabulous things, that in the quiet moments tell you what they've lived through, that they have not spoken to anyone else out loud before, 90+% of the population I know that are women.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, that is the lens through which I view the world, because the people I love passionately and the people that are in my world that you would never know have all experienced as bad, and not as if there should be a grading scale, but have experienced some type of which they have overcome and spoke nothing about, because they did not have the courage to do it.
They didn't have the courage to do it. And that leads us into a great segue into what domestic violence is. Because many do not know that domestic violence is beyond physical.
It's it's everything.
It's emotional. You can be in a domestic violent relationship and have never been hit. I myself had a black and blue heart, not a black and blue face. My confidence was completely depleted. I wondered what I should wear, what I should say. I couldn't be me.
Right.
And so when you cannot be you in a relationship, that is abuse. It is a form of abuse. So it could be choking, it could be pushing, it could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be you'll never amount to anything. That's abuse.
It is. I was thinking on the drive how I would like to put it on Giving Hope and Help on your site, because what we do at Safe in Harm's Way is we'll put some inspirational content, memes, but we pivoted for COVID because we realized people were shut in. But the second part of what we realized is, much like me, and the more you talk to other survivors, they would not have labeled themselves as if they were in an abusive situation.
Sure.
Because you're thinking, I'm smart enough, I can handle it, I can fix it. If I just show him how to be a better parent, he'll be a better parent. If I just show him how to love correctly and talk to him and say, what you're doing is really hurtful, he'll stop. It never stopped. Anything I tried to do, because of the intelligence and because of the passion of wanting to fix things, because I'm good at fixing things, you stick around.
Well,
right?
You're a winner, and so you want to win.
You don't lose. Yeah.
And you don't want to give up. You're not a quitter.
Right.
You know, you've always achieved all your life.
Yeah.
And so how is it that you can't achieve with this person? One thing you can never change, and one thing you cannot compromise with, one thing you can't argue with, one thing that you cannot change and fix is a demonic spirit.
Agreed.
The only being that can fix a demonic spirit is higher than us. So we can pray to that, to God. We can pray, but we have to let go and let him do things. And I had to hear that clearly myself.
Right.
He said that there's only one Savior, and it's me. It's not you.
Right.
You can't do the thing. You can't say the right thing. You can't be the right way. You cannot, because you're dealing with a spirit that is against what I'm about.
Agreed.
And so we as women, loving women, we want to make certain that we try to get our point across, and that we try to brush it under the rug and make it sweeter and put some sugar on it, and he's going to be nice tonight. No. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you have children. It doesn't matter if you don't have children. It doesn't matter if you have whatever it is, it's never going to work.
Never.
Because it's the wrong spirit.
And that's something, I want to be able to give to folks, and maybe they can access it through Giving Hope and Help. They can access it through Safe in Harm's Way, but it's downloadable. Never knew personally that it existed. The Wheel of Power and Control.
The Wheel of Power and Control.
Which outlines every type of abuse there is, what it looks like, what it sounds like. So when I was at the domestic violence shelter after I had escaped, and I was in the counseling therapy session, and they gave it as part of the
and I've seen that will.
And they handed it to me, and I read it, and I lost it. I thought, this has been my life for 8 years.
Wow.
Suddenly everything made sense. I hit on every single spoke of the wheel.
So
everything. So
like every side effect.
Every side effect.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to provide that for people, because you need to be able to label what's happening to you. We're talking about changing or impacting one life. If one person who in the pit of her stomach or his stomach, I use the female pronoun because it's my story, and I realize that men can suffer from this. I realize people who identify within sex or in different sexes can also be victims of this. So I use the female pronoun because it's my story, but I do acknowledge that this can happen to other people.
Sure.
And when you can't label what's wrong, something doesn't feel right, and this labels it for you.
Yeah.
So it gives you the tools to say, this is what I've been dealing with. Right. And you stop then, he hasn't hit me yet. I mean, he's thrown me against the wall, but he hasn't hit me yet. No, still abuse, right? But to your point,
pushing, choking, shoving, abuse.
You've been dismantled from the inside out.
Absolutely.
And to bounce back from that is hard. And that is one of the things where in conveying this message to positively impact one life, to give somebody the tools to label what they're living with, and then the action steps they can take to start to heal from that. that's the goal. That's
That
the
is
journey
awesome.
for the
So
rest of
the goal is
2020.
to positively impact one life. And when I shared that we were going to be on the show today, I said I'm so excited about the possibility of even just one
Right.
person being empowered or inspired by this transparent talk. And if you're just joining us, you're tuned in to Purpose, Passion, and Power with Jessica Lynn. And we are here with Carolyn Hammond. She is a survivor of domestic violence, and this is Domestic Violence Month. And we don't just talk about domestic violence and Domestic Violence Month. We are advocates all year round. Our organizations support women that have been affected. And I should say again, women and men, because 1 in 3 women are affected by domestic violence. However, I don't know what the stat is for men.
1 in 9.
1 in 9.
If you're looking at the community that is, the LGBTQIA community, it is 2.5 times any statistics otherwise gathered. So this is something that, and this is also when you think about the number of people we're talking about it who don't speak up.
Yeah.
Those statistics are just woefully low.
Right. And so the 1 in 9 is probably 5 in 9 could be, who knows.
Right.
Or 3, but men don't have a space.
No, it's hard for men.
It's hard for them because, they feel they're weak or
Right.
whatever it may be, or she's just that way, or women are just that way, and women are not that way. So if you are a man and tuned in to us right now and listening, and your partner, wife, whoever is controlling you or yelling and screaming and having fits, and you can't visit your family without getting a phone call saying that I'm sick and my stomach hurts, you need to come take me to the hospital. There's all kinds of abuse that go on with men, where some men, every time they're doing anything outside of family and work, there's a problem. And that is a form of abuse as well.
It is.
And I've heard some of those stories, and unfortunately, men stay in that much longer because they feel like this is just the way she is, until they are under the knowledge that, or becoming to the knowledge that this is control.
Right.
Every time I get ready to do something with my family, she gets a migraine. Every time I get ready to do something with my family, she needs something. Something's wrong. Something's a flat, something. And so it's almost like a Lifetime movie.
It is. Well, and it's control, and it's also isolation, because if the abuser can keep you from anyone who loves you, then they also significantly lower their risk of being exposed. Because they know what they're doing. It's a definite manipulative, calculated.
They're, what is that? Scared that somebody's going to
find out.
Yeah.
And they work awfully hard to crack, to keep the facade in place so that it's not cracked. So anytime you leave the cocoon of what they've created as far as an abuse bubble, they risk being outed, and they can't have that. So it's another form of not only control but isolation as well.
By isolation. Listen, if you are in a domestic violent relationship, that includes physical, emotional control, verbal abuse. There is a hotline that you can dial. They will provide confidential support and help to you. They are connected with every domestic violence shelter in the country of the United States of America. That is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It is 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. SAFE. You can call that number. If you're in the local Kansas City metro area, you can call 816-HOTLINE. 816-HOTLINE. And to receive some confidential help for your situation. Let's talk a little bit about a safe plan. So when you get ready to call those numbers, the National Domestic Violence Hotline or the local hotline, they are going to talk to you possibly about an escape plan. One of the things that I always say is make sure that you have shared your story with a neighbor, a family member, a friend, a coworker. Someone needs to know what you are going through.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a part of your escape plan. Take it away, Carolyn. What can you add to that?
You know, at Safe in Harm's Way, what we talk a lot about and what we counsel people who reach out to us is exactly give them the information that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
We say to pick a trusted soul.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you literally are placing your life
Mm-hmm.
in the hands of a trusted soul.
Mm-hmm.
And you give them, and this is going to sound obvious, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to give them your name,
Mm-hmm.
your address, your phone number, your birthday, the make and model of your car,
Mm-hmm.
the kids' names, their address, sometimes different than yours, their ages, what schools they go to,
Mm-hmm.
your abuser's name, where he works. If you know who a supervisor is, the address of where he works, the make and model of his car, his cell phone number, any children he has, their ages, and what you know about them. If he has any family members, you give that family information as well, and you give your family information as well, and you hand all of that over to your trusted soul.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you have is you can establish a relationship. I can give you an example. You establish a text relationship because often their abusers are really legitimately following what you do on your cell phone or your computer, or they are threatening that they are. Either way, we know that people cannot access information easily
Mm-hmm.
and reach out for help easily. So you can establish something that says that you have random check-ins with your safe soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, oh my gosh, I have just been dancing all day, and I can't believe this 80s vibe that I'm on. I've got the Go-Go's on repeat. Our Lips Are Sealed is blaring. What's your favorite 80s song? And if I'm the safe person, right, I send this message to the person who's at risk, and she says, I love everything about the 80s. The 80s were my jam.
Mm-hmm.
I know everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If she says, because we've coordinated this, if she says, you know what, that early 90s music that I could not get into. I didn't like the 90s until it hit like 1997. When Gwen Stefani came on the scene, it's when I finally liked the 90s music. I know that things have escalated and she's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that with recipes. You can do that with anything, anything that you know that when you get an answer that falls into the I am unsafe category, then you have established what your safe soul is going to do, that person's going to go into action. And I leave, outside of saying these are the things you can do, there are trained experts at the information you gave, those lines that help you deal specifically with escaping. And you can also do that confidentially via text. So, hatching those escape plans and what those look like. I just read an interesting article that said, if you have to shelter in place and there's nowhere you can go, now might be the time to start
your plan.
Your plan.
Absolutely.
Start your plan.
Absolutely. It's a great time.
Yeah, and I think people reach a point where they have to get out, and that's true. But it took me 6 months to implement my escape plan, and during that time, living through that was extremely difficult, but I made sure that me and my children were safe.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I did not have any children with my abuser, so I didn't have to worry about that component of it. But I had to ensure my children were safe, the people they loved were safe, and I was safe. And that took 6 months to implement. Now, it was far different from the moment I chose to leave.
Yeah.
I could have run screaming for the hills, and I do believe it was a God moment. I do believe that the moment I discovered what I discovered was a God moment, because I was about to flee and run and rail against whomever I could. And this voice over my right shoulder said, shh, be still, be still. And had I not listened to that voice, I would not have then discovered even more of what I discovered about the facade of a man and what was evil, diseased, and disgusting underneath. And so that God moment started the plan that took 6 months to implement. It doesn't have to be a getaway in the middle of the night thing. you can actually work through the course of a plan with the smartest people in the room who can give you the best resources. And by the way, you don't have to be living at a shelter in order to take advantage of those resources. And I think that's
Correct.
something that people don't realize, that
They don't think the help is there if they're not at a shelter.
And it's there.
Some of them are too embarrassed to be at a shelter.
yeah, and you don't.
But the help is still there with you being at home.
They will come to the hospital. The shelter staff will come to wherever you are to assist you.
Go to court with you.
They'll go. Yes, that's
and,
all
and
there.
support you all the way. You know, there's a flip side to, you know, you can say, for instance, you have refused or just didn't think you needed an escape plan, and was because the same reason that you didn't. The 5-letter word called shame.
Mm-hmm.
So we had no idea that she had been through any type of abuse, and she's gone. And so I knew at that moment, you know, she had passed away without knowing what I had went through as well.
Mm.
And so I knew that.
Well, let me say, first of all, thank you for sharing that story with me. And I know outside of the time constraints we're under today, I'd love to sit and just hold your hand and talk about that, because maybe we can I'd love to honor her in some way at Safe and Harm's Way, because that is the truth. You know, the first 3 months of somebody leaving, or it is a lifelong endurance thing. That can still happen. And we need to have a voice for those women. You bring it up perfectly, shame. And inherent in that shame, what you have to remember is that there were probably moments of glory and joy and fabulousness in the relationship, because it's a cycle.
Yeah.
The abuse, it starts, I'll use myself. It's amazing the number of times I got off Facebook. Because you can see the cycle of my life for 8 years. Love bombing, travel, flowers, poetry, and then abuse, and then abuse, and then horrible abuse. And I'd feel so ashamed. I'd get off Facebook because I'd be like, this isn't my life. How could this be my life? And what you do in those shame moments is you open up to your abuser and you say, here are all the things that are making me so sad about our relationship. Here's all the points where I feel like you lied to me. Here are all the things, because you're trying to fix it, abuser, and your ammunition. You've given it all to your abuser. Now he knows where he's messed up, and the facade has started to crack. He knows where he needs to double down on isolating you. He knows where he needs to double down on the abuse of you, because you've just told him what hurts the most. So he starts the upswing of the beauty and the love and the travel and the magic until...
If it's before marriage, if it's before, you know, you've made a commitment, I should say marriage, because, you know, the first moment, I know someone that said that her abuse started the wedding night, out of the blue. And she immediately got out. Listen, we want, you know, the nice gifts, and we want all of those things. But let me tell you something. If you are that desperate, you need to do some self-discovery and self-evaluation. I'm not beating up on anyone who is already being abused. If you are not abused and you are that desperate, you need a real girlfriend. You need a real counselor, because you are on the road for what?
You're on the road for more abuse. And I would say, I would take what you said and add a few layers in there, because everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants that. And women, and young girls from an early age have been in my sales job. And my life was bottoming out at home. I didn't know at the time the level to which I had been in danger of what he kept hidden, of what he did without my knowledge, without my consent. I didn't know a lot of how just ugly and diseased it was. I knew something was wrong, and we were planning a wedding. We were planning a wedding.
And he was all in.
Oh, all in. We were shopping for his wedding socks, And he was one aisle over, and because I could track his, I was given by whatever angels were watching me, the readout of his text messages. During the same time that we were planning the wedding and we were buying his wedding socks, he was arranging online to have sex with some stranger from Craigslist. I could time stamp it, right? I knew where we were. So he was all in, because that would have been the perfect facade for him.
Mm-hmm. You were the eye candy and the trophy.
That was, yeah. So
this is what we're talking about here.
So, that was happening at the time. So I think one of the focuses that we're starting, I'm just kind of fleshing out now for Safe in Harm's Way, is the professional woman, because the abuse doesn't have a stereotype.
No.
It's everyone. Mm-hmm. So the
doesn't
professional woman, those benefits that people might not be aware of because they don't want to raise their hand of what they're living through. Mm-hmm. But if you call it out, all of a sudden you're giving tools that were already there within your organization to the people who need it most. And if you don't have those tools, then let Safe in Harm's Way help you create them. Because
and we have to get those tools. We got to get beyond the stigmatism of shame and embarrassment.
Agreed.
Because so many companies, they don't want to acknowledge that is happening to their employees. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
We don't have those problems here. Well, you've got racism.
Right.
Now we've got this big movement of Black Lives Matter. They've
I'll
be
be
100.
I intend to my hair to, my hair goes to dreadlocks very quickly.
With me and we'll be there.
That's right. We're going to have flowers on our hair and bright red lipstick, and we are going to still be changing and rocking the world. We are 103 years old.
Yes.
Isn't that funny that we've
talked about this already.
It was so awesome.
She said, I got time. I do too. I've got time. I've got time.
I can do it.
We can make this happen.
Soul at a time.
Wow, we've talked about a lot. I want to bring a couple of points that you said for those that are. You talked about pick a trusted soul. Mm-hmm. We're talking about an escape plan. Mm-hmm. So with the escape plan, you want to pick a trusted soul. It could be a neighbor. There's all different types of things you can do. You can let a neighbor know if you put a flower in your window, you're in trouble.
Right.
Whatever it may be.
When I finally said trusted soul, my emergency contact number person, so they would have somebody else to call as well. Mm-hmm. It's, again, overcoming shame because you're showing up to your neighbors with brownies and they're just like, hey, what in the world? Yeah, but all of them rallied. Mm-hmm. All of them rallied. Mm-hmm. They still check on me. Yes. I mean, they still come over and say, is everything okay? Mm-hmm. Is everything all right? I'm 4.5 years out. Mm-hmm. They don't forget of men in my life. Mm-hmm. Life is amazing. Mm-hmm. Life is beautiful. Mm-hmm. But there are still moments that rear an ugly head that you have to deal with, and that's when you change the channel. Mm-hmm. So I do want to give that message of hope, because I can, my 4 years out is amazing, and my daughter will ask me, when people talk about how lucky and fortunate that you are, does that bother you a little bit, because they don't know what you scraped through to get to there? Mm-hmm. And no, because I want everybody to see that the channel. Yeah. And that's where Safe in Harm's Way has developed their endurance move moment. Move, M-O-V-E, E is for endurance. Move moment of healing is to be there. We intend to be here for the long haul. I intend to build an empire that is a generational wealth that my children and my children's children and their children will continue to work to change the world in a positive way, so that we will be here as an institution to help in all the endurance needed for the after, because life is better in your after
your abuse. I love it. Just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And I'll say this right here, every trial and test that you've been through is for this moment, is for this purpose, is for this legacy that you're leaving. I think it's so phenomenal, your story with your corporate job, but that's not your passion.
No.
And you've never verbally told me that, but I know that because whatever your passion is, you can see it.
Right.
And I can see that this is your passion. And I am so honored that we're together on this thing, because we're going to change some lives.
Amen, sister.
We have lives assigned to us to do that. And so there have been people watching and listening, and I'm just excited about the possibilities. And I want women to get excited about the possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I want women to be so happy with themselves that they don't have to have a man.
Right.
You know, that they don't have to feel validated by a man. God validates us.
Right.
And then we as women should always validate each other.
Agree.
We should always, strong women, lift each other up.
Yep.
And so if you know, here's my challenge to you. You've never been abused and you're tuned in. If you know of a woman that's been abused, lift her up. If you don't even know if she's been abused, lift her up.
You're going to make me get all teary-eyed, Jessica, because swear, oh my goodness, the amount of people who in my life who knew nothing about what had happened to me, other than my Facebook looked different, right? Because I started hiding his face and his family's face from everything.
It was gone.
It's gone. I mean, I can see it, but it's gone. And they just reached out to me and said, I don't know what's going on in your world, but I want you to know I started to pray for you.
It's awesome.
The amazing feeling you get when someone randomly says a message that says, I started to pray for you on a really bad day, that lifted me up. People sent me funny memes. People sent me stories that they found inspiring. I got books in the mail that didn't even have the gift card of who sent it. And some I still don't know. Because
and they didn't even know your story.
They didn't even know my story. So you gave a challenge that is amazing. You don't have to know.
You don't.
You just have to sense and follow your gut and say, I am thinking of you.
I'm thinking
I am lifting you up. You can share your story with me fully. You don't have to share a thing. But know that I am thinking of you. Here's a music I love for today. Here's the song I danced to today. I got all kinds of things in the mail. I got flowers. I got just from people who didn't know. Now, some, I got a lot from the folks who did know. And, but that was a challenge that people took. So I love that you say that because when you've been dismantled from the inside out, to have the random love from someone starts to rebuild. I like to call it the cement. You need to put the building bricks. You need to put the bricks and the foundation up, but the cement that seals the cracks are all the people that come into your life. I started actually taking pictures with people and documenting it because I would have random strangers come up to me and touch me and say, you know it's going to be okay, right? Those were people from God or the universe or Kali or whomever sent them to me. And I started to actually say, would you mind taking a quick picture with me? Because this happens. And then I also said to my kids, am I giving off like this smell that people know my sadness?
No, it's that God knows you need this.
Yeah. And people were sent to me like beautiful random strangers. Like there was a just amazing journey when you start to, and if you look at the story of a hero, if you look at movies or books, if you look at the story of a hero, when the hero starts to make a choice to go through the deep, dark forest by themselves, God, the universe, whomever, gives you lanterns along the way, gives you people that help direct you to the next best spot.
And it may get dark and lonely, and it may seem like everything has fell to the bottom, but then there comes the light again. And there comes the encouragement again. And so the challenge, I 2 years ago, I challenged everyone to pick a day of the week. Mine is Friday. And I call someone live. No text, no email. And I let them know that I'm thinking of them. And God tells me who to call.
Every time. I choose Mondays.
Every single time.
That's so funny. That's so funny of what we align with, girl. Like we need to do a past life reading. We've been connected for lifetimes.
But every single time, do you get that they needed it that day?
Yeah.
And the day that I called you and we talked, it wasn't that, but I was calling you saying, I'm just thinking, I think that was a Friday. Oh my God. It was a Friday. Yeah. So that's my day to do that. I'm always thinking of people, but we need each other. And so if we're literally almost out of time. So if you are in an abusive relationship, we've given some good points, and Carolyn, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And Safe in Harm's Way has a lot going on to support women that have been affected or being affected by domestic violence. And there's going to be some more partnerships with Giving Hope and Help and Safe in Harm's Way by way of so many things. And so we're excited about what's happening. So just stay tuned on that. But if you are in a domestic violent relationship, again, the number to the local Kansas City area is 816-HOT-LINE, 816-HOT-LINE. That is the Kansas City metro area. For the national domestic violence hotline, that is 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-SAFE. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we want to make certain that it's not just this month, but it's every day of the year that I want women and men to be set free from violence. And there's so many layers to that. 1 hour is not even enough. It's not even enough time to scratch the surface, really.
No.
But we've done what we can in this little 1 hour. You've been tuned in to Purpose, Passion, and Power with Jessica Lynn on KUAW, Kansas City's global talk show. Be blessed.
Okay.
We off?
Yeah.